Chicago are no longer considering Jussie Smollett a victim.
President Trump declared a national emergency to get that wall built.
I can speak to the reality that we're dealing with here along our 209 miles of border in South Texas. Our arrests here in this sector have gone up, have doubled, so that's a 100% increase.
Congress had the ability to act and actually stop the president from doing this national emergency. The left have ignored what has been happening over and over and again.
Walls do not, as the president has claimed, save lives. Walls end lives.
The America I see values basic human decency, not snatching children from their parents, because it makes us embarrassing.
I think okay. You need something this fun.
Come on, baby. Get it there.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Fantastic song.
It really is.
I like
Dragons are great.
Excellent choice.
Yeah.
Imagine, where did they come up with that name? I've always wanted to name a band.
They're creative. This is what musicians do, right?
True. Unlike us. We sit on a couch and we read teleprompter.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, this is my tale for today. There was a belt, that belt gone wrong, shall we call it. So I've tied it up in a knot. And in case you're wondering what's behind me, it's some tape. Tried to adhere it to my body. So
there it is. That's what it was for.
It's kind of like a lasso. I'm just going to call myself Wonder Woman today.
It's very fashionable.
We'll get fashionable.
I think it looks great.
Take you out shopping. Maybe
it's a good look.
Thanks for being here on this Sunday, punchy Sunday morning, you might say.
Lots of news to cover.
We do indeed. A wave of protests against protecting the southern border are planned across the U.S. tomorrow.
Liberal activists are calling for demonstrations in response to President Trump's national emergency declaration.
Jillian Turner live in Washington with what we can expect. Jillian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. President Trump himself forecast his declaration of a national emergency would face some immediate legal challenges in courts across the country, but turns out he's going to have to contend with a lot more than just judicial pushback. Large-scale public protests are now slated for tomorrow. That's President's Day, from California to Texas to New York. Democrat Maxine Waters issuing a clarion call to Americans opposed to the president's national emergency.
It's time for everybody to stand up, all hands on deck, to refuse this president these fake emergency powers that he'd like to have. And so I'm urging everybody, get together, rally in every community across this country, send a message to Washington, D.C.
Liberal advocacy group MoveOn.org is behind at least a few of these protests. Their website reading, Donald Trump has declared a #fake national emergency, an illegal power grab from an unhinged man to push his racist, dangerous policies. Now, President Trump and some of his closest advisors will be in Miami tomorrow. He's slated to address Venezuelan Americans and make the case that socialist policies ultimately drive nations into the ground. A political message as 2020 gets underway. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian.
You know, Griff alerted me to the New York Times, which is often failing, but they got something right this morning in an article that said asylum policies wearing down many at the border. Even acknowledging that it's working, that the policy that this president is deterring, and you've seen it better more than most, the ability to just jump right into it.
That's right. And, you know, we just had a Border Patrol official on last hour that said, listen, this is the problems I got. This is reality what's going on the border. But the Democrat 2020 hopefuls are leading the charge in making a political football out of this wall. And Beto O'Rourke is really on the front end of that. He first, of course, told us that he would tear a wall down. Listen to this.
You know, would you take the wall down now? Here.
Yes.
Like you have a wall.
Absolutely.
Knock it down.
I'd take the wall down. Walls do not, as the president has claimed, save lives. Walls end lives.
So that was him yesterday doubling down on the statement that he would take the wall down with a de facto acknowledgement, actually, Jedediah. If he's saying that walls end lives, which is just an open statement he's just making. He's saying that walls are effective if your approach is to stop something from happening. No one wants to end lives. No one's talking about that. But this is where the debate's going to go.
I know. And it's the rush to the extreme. I really can't wait to see who makes it out of the primary. It's not going to be Beto, by the way, but I'm just predicting that now. But who makes it out of the primary and then has to run in the general election, adhering to all these super far left principles. It's amazing, though. I mean, they're gonna all be asked about this. Every single one of them. Would you tear down the walls? Explain why they're going to be faced with statistics. And whoever makes it out of that primary is going to be standing next to Donald Trump and have to defend these points while he's talking about a humanitarian crisis, drug trafficking, human trafficking.
Angel moms,
exactly, and all these things that are really concerning a whole lot of people, regardless of political ideology.
Well, and Beto O'Rourke is certainly got nothing to lose because he has to rise to the top. A guy like Joe Biden comes with a lot of name recognition.
He's got nothing to lose because he's never won.
Well,
Robert Francis has never won. No, I mean, he did win. He didn't win his last race.
You know what, Griff, though? You would think that Biden would have to be more careful, but there he is telling Europeans that America is an embarrassment. Take a listen.
The America I see values basic human decency, not snatching children from their parents or turning our back on refugees at our border. Americans know that's not right. The American people understand, please, because it makes us embarrassing. The American people know overwhelmingly that that's not right. That's not who we are.
So the Munich Security Conference is a conference for global elites to pat each other on the back. There's some serious stuff that goes on there, but this is Joe Biden's lane. He thinks he's the establishment guy. He's been the vice president. Watch Joe Biden. Will he continue to be a liberal or will he become a leftist like so much of the party has? I mean, but to start with, my country's embarrassing. That's an interesting place to start.
But he's not going to go, just to point out to you, I don't think he's going to go as far as Beto O'Rourke has, because, the thing with O'Rourke that's a problem is that to say walls end lives, it's happening at the same time that the river border that is literally just in his backyard, people have lost their lives trying to cross. The wall didn't drown them. The river did, and the wall is there to say don't cross. So I don't think you're going to see Joe Biden go that far. He's taking a book from Obama that we saw as president.
And the base isn't going to like that, though. I mean,
you know what? I want to hear from viewers, though. Friends at FoxNews.com. What do you think? Do you think Joe Biden is going to go all the way left, or do you think he's going to be a more reasonable moderate because that's a void that needs to be filled in the Democratic Party? Tell us.
He's an old school liberal, though. The scary part is that if Joe Biden stays where he has been, he stays a liberal, which is now the middle of the Democrat Party.
That's right. He's not an AOC, though. He's not an AOC.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Waits to be seen.
Well, there's another story coming out of Chicago, Griff, a pretty important one.
That's right. A lot of new details coming out. If you've been paying attention to the actor Jussie Smollett, you may have seen this Empire show. It all began in January when actor Jussie Smollett claimed he was attacked by two men allegedly using racial slurs, shouting MAGA country, dousing him in something that may have been bleach, and put a noose around his neck. That, of course, was certainly something that took everyone by surprise.
That was his story.
That was his story. But we now have developments from the Chicago Police Department. Now, they are putting out a statement today, but it comes on the heels of having taken two Nigerian men into custody on Wednesday, one of which may have had a part in it. But you're seeing the statement now after those Nigerians were released. The Chicago Police Department says we can confirm that the information received from the individuals questioned, the Nigerians, by police earlier in the Empire case has, in fact, shifted the trajectory of the investigation. We've reached out to the Empire cast member's attorney to request a follow-up interview. Something happened in that interview with the Nigerians that caused them to question Mullet's explanation of what happened. And so Mullet's lawyers are responding, sending a statement to Entertainment Tonight that says this. As a victim of a hate crime who has cooperated with the police investigation, Jussie Smollett is angered and devastated by recent reports that the perpetrators are individuals he is familiar with. He has now been further victimized by claims attributed to these alleged perpetrators that Jussie played a role in his own attack. Nothing is further from the truth, and anyone claiming otherwise is lying.
Yeah. The Chicago police now do not consider Jussie Smollett a victim. This is new news based on the interview. They brought in the two guys they thought could have been responsible. Those two guys walk. And they say they have receipts showing that they bought the noose at Ace Hardware. Now, this is according to Fox Chicago TV. They say that these two Nigerian men told the cops that the Star paid them to orchestrate the attack. So we don't know what happened. So they're saying maybe these two individuals potentially were paid to make it look like an attack. If that's the case, who really committed the hate crime? No, really, think about that. If you're accusing someone of yelling MAGA, and that's a hate crime, but let's just say maybe possibly, since everyone's been speculating from moment one that he made it up or paid someone, then who really is committing the hate crime here?
That moment, by the way, just for our viewers, because not everyone's paid attention to this, this was the interview that Jussie Smollett gave with GMA that really set this in motion. Listen to this.
Who says empire, this MAGA country, ties a noose around your neck and pours bleach on you, and this is just a friendly fight? I will never be the man that this did not happen to. I am forever changed. And I don't subscribe to the idea that everything happens for a reason, but I do subscribe to the idea that we have the right and the responsibility to make something meaningful out of the things that happen to us, good and bad.
So he gave this interview. A lot of media folks jumped right behind it, defended him from second one without allowing the investigation to run through. A lot of Democratic politicians, 2020 hopefuls, everyone from, Booker to Kamala Harris, beyond, defended him instantly. And it's just a reminder to the media. Once again, we saw this with Covington. We see this repeatedly. This is an investigation. None of us know what happened. That's why the police force exists, the Chicago police going and trying to do their job, trying to figure this out. All of you guys who had to walk back your original immediate defense and say, oh, wait, hold on, there's more stuff. Learn how to do some reporting. Take a minute. Be objective. Be journalist. And sometimes it means stepping back and not being part of that social media firestorm where you got to be first, or you got to be, because you don't like Donald Trump, you got to figure out, oh, this angle works for me to criminalize Trump, so let me run with it. Don't run with it because you're ruining your personal credibility in the process. Give it a minute. We don't know. It's okay sometimes to just say we don't know yet, but we're going to stand by and we're going to follow
the story. Well, that may be too late already for some of the 2020 hopefuls who immediately leapt to conclusions, but your point is exactly correct.
A lynching.
Jedediah, and that is
two of them. Modern-day lynching, they said.
The police will weigh in. No one knows exactly what happened but Jussie Smollett. The police will put out official statements.
And they'll figure it out.
To question him again. We'll find out. You're going to hear a lot about it. Just remember, we don't know yet.
The reason it got headlines is because it was about racist Trump supporters.
Because the word MAGA was involved, which was the same thing that happened in Covington. Because that kid was wearing a hat, all of a sudden his smirk became a headline. That is what happened.
We shall find out, and the truth shall set you free. So someone said.
All right. One man just received a nearly $1 million tax refund. Does it sound too good to be true? Well, that's because it is. The huge price he's now paying, we'll tell you.
Hope he didn't spend it. Plus, more and more Democrats keep throwing their hats in the ring for 2020. But who is President Trump's team keeping the closest eye on? We're scouting the competition. Coming up next.
I stand before you today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
I'm running for president because I believe in us. I believe in these values.
I stand here today to declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States of America.
With a number of Democrats now throwing their hat in the ring for 2020, President Trump's re-election campaign is busy doing their own homework and scouting the competition. Here to break down the Democrats on the president's radar, former Trump campaign pollster and partner at McLaughlin & Associates, Jim McLaughlin. Jim, thanks for being here. We are going to go through this because there are a few that the Trump campaign is really going to be keeping an eye on. So let's go one to one. We're going to start with Cory Booker. This surprised me a little bit, actually. Yeah. They really think he's going to get some headway. Why?
Because you want to do your homework. You want to make sure that no matter who the candidate is, you're well prepared for it. And, Cory Booker is a guy who's created a sensation. Personally, I'm with you. I think he's a lightweight. I think he's been inconsistent on the issues.
But he could have a good donor base. Is that right?
No question. He's raised a lot of money. You know where he's raised a lot of the money? And it could be one of his vulnerabilities. He's raised tens of millions from Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Yep, exactly right.
Let's keep moving here. All right, Elizabeth Warren now, she is known as a populist, so I think they fear that a little bit, but she's had a lot of issues when it comes to lying about her Native American heritage. They're still pretty worried about her, though?
Yeah, and again, you want to make sure you're doing your due diligence.
Right.
And I look at if I'm Donald Trump, he would love to run against Elizabeth Warren. Because one of the things she's getting hit on is the character issues. And look what happened to her last week.
Right.
She was saying she wasn't using the whole Native American thing to her advantage. And now we saw that it was on her bar registration form down in Texas. And that didn't come from Republicans. That came from Democrats.
Yep, and she used to be a lot more right-wing than she is now, just for the record.
They all were.
A lot of them.
They all were.
All right, we've got Senator Kamala Harris, who I think is a formidable option here. She's very smart. She's a former prosecutor. But she does have a long prosecutorial record that exists in contrast to a lot of the things she's saying right now. Do you think that's what they'll be digging up on her?
Exactly right. And the interesting part is, I agree with you. I think she's gonna be the front runner. I think she checks a lot of the boxes.
And the media loves her.
Yep, the Democratic Party. We just saw that in one of your previous segments. But you look at it, what did she get hit on in the Democratic primary last week for actually reporting and going after illegal immigrants that committed crimes? And now, to most Americans, that's a common sense thing. That's what a prosecutor like her was supposed to do. But I guess some Democrats think that's a bad thing in a Democratic primary.
Right, exactly. All right, now this is my key, Joe Biden. I think he's going to come out last minute. If he decides he wants to run, I think he's going to be the guy to watch. Trump knows that. People in the campaign may be looking at everybody, but I think Trump's got his eyes on Biden.
You know what the interesting part is? Even though the polls show that he's the front runner, he's the pseudo front runner in this, he's getting less than 3 out of 10 Democratic primary votes, which is significantly less than what Hillary was getting last time. That was a smaller field, no question about it. And also 60% of Democrats in one Democratic primary poll I saw, they're looking for somebody new. And that's not Joe Biden.
Okay, but do you think, let me ask you this, do you think that the concern is that Joe Biden, you got a lot of far-left candidates. Joe Biden's smart. Is he going to come out now and be the guy in the middle that can appeal to more centrist Democrats? Are they going to be watching him because he has the Obama record behind him also? What is it about Biden that you think that they'll be focusing on that will be their best bet to defeat him if he's the guy?
You know what it is? When you've been around American politics for as long as he has, 40, 50 years, I had this problem when I worked for Bob Dole back in 1996. I remember one of the Democratic consultants on the other side said, because his record was so long, we could say whatever we wanted about him. And it's the same thing with Joe Biden here. He got hit last week for saying nice things in the Democratic primary about George Wallace, who was a segregationist. That didn't come from the Republicans. That came from the Democrats.
All right, well, I think Joe Biden's the guy to watch. But thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate your opinion. All right, we traded Bo Bergdahl for these 5 former Gitmo detainees, but now we're negotiating the future of Afghanistan with them. Really? Someone who served at Gitmo, well, joins us next. And our next guest was at the Rose Garden when President Trump declared a national emergency on the border. Susan Stevens lost her daughter to a heroin overdose last year. She tells us why the wall will help battle the drug crisis. That's coming up next. The families impacted by the flow of illegal drugs into our country.
One incredible woman just showed me her daughter, who we're talking about killed in the year of 18. Stand up just for a second. Show how beautiful your girl was.
That's Susan Stevens. She lost her daughter, Toria, to a heroin overdose just 1 year ago. She met privately with the president, telling him how the drug crisis has torn her family apart. Susan Stevens joins us now. Susan, good morning. Our condolences to you for your loss. That must have been quite a moment in the Rose Garden.
It was surreal. I didn't know that he was going to point me out and honor my child, but he said, stand up and show your beautiful daughter. And she would be proud that she represents 72,000 lives a year that are lost to opioids, 90% coming over the border.
Susan, can you just tell us a little bit about Toria? She died of a heroin overdose, and a little bit about her story, please.
Toria was a superstar. I called her my golden child. She was easy, had her homework done, gifted academically, gifted artistically, and would come up to D.C. to take part in leadership conferences, appointed by the mayor to student leadership. She was just a superstar in every way. She was a lifeguard, had her whole world. Some tragic things happened in her life, and she became addicted to opioids.
And now, Susan, you are advocating for a wall. Why?
a wall is one of the pieces, but 90% of our opioids are coming across the border, and we have to stop it. It's killing the best of the best. It's killing our young generation, 24 to 26 years old.
Susan, as someone who suffered in the way that you have, losing a child due to this heroin overdose, as we talked about, 90% of all heroin consumed coming over from Mexico, what is your reaction when you hear people say this is a manufactured crisis or this is a fake crisis that Trump is capitalizing on?
I jumped up and I was the one that yelled, this is not manufactured, and shoved my picture of my daughter in his face. I wouldn't manufacture my child's death.
And Susan, when you now hear, as we point out on the show here and in other instances, the candidates running for the Democrat presidential nomination are really going as far as saying they want to tear down existing wall, how does that sit with you?
It breaks my heart. Drugs don't discriminate, so I don't even know why they would even suggest that. Drugs are hitting Republicans, Democrats, black, white, doesn't matter what language you speak. The crisis is touching everyone, and you don't hear anyone talking because there's so much stigma attached, but 72,000 lives are lost every year, and it's in gated communities. It's the best of the best. It's potential astronauts and maybe the future president of the United States.
Yeah. Susan, thank you so much for being here. It's, you know, throwing around statistics, it's one thing, but when you hear stories like yours, personal stories, that's what really touches people's hearts, and it takes great courage to share those, so thank you.
Thank you
Susan,
for bringing us out of the shadows.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Elizabeth Warren facing hecklers at her latest campaign stop. How she's being reminded of her Native American exaggeration.
Plus, Rick is live at Daytona International Speedway, and he's got some special guests. NASCAR legend Darrell Waltrip and Fox NASCAR analyst Mike Joy coming up next.
You do a push-up contest.
What's that? Should be
My
great.
muscles are seizing up.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I feel like I might be ready for my push-up rematch.
He just stopped.
Adam did stop.
I'm not stopping. He is.
It's true.
That's a win. That's a win.
I declared victory preemptively. All right, I've been put to the test many times here on Fox and Friends. Thankfully, Adam Klotz is not here this morning. It turns out this may be a good thing, as a new study out of Harvard, consider the source, reveals men who can do more than 40 push-ups are far less likely, despite what they eat, to develop heart disease.
So how heart healthy are we on Fox and Friends? We're going to find out. We're going to do some push-ups. Actually, they're going to do them mostly. The study's about men, but I got to join in because you know how I am.
Notice
can't be left out.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't even have a line.
How's your
just waiting for me to have a heart
You just got to
attack?
do the push-ups.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
All right,
Harvard
so
beat
we
Princeton
got to hit
basketball
the
on
floor.
Friday
You
night.
guys first are going to start because, you know, somebody's got to make sure you got the right form.
Griff, you got 40 in you?
40.
We'll find
Should we do
out.
them together?
All right, go.
Wait, 1, 2.
Oh, look at him go. All right, I should
7, 8,
I got to represent the ladies.
Somebody else count. Dave, what do you got?
13, something like that. This is morning television at its best right here. 20. Oh, 20. I'm stopping at 40. I had a friend who was a Marine, and he did the physical fitness test, and he said he's the reason why the Marine Corps has minimum standards. He would stop right at 40. 40.
Making it dramatic.
I didn't do bad. I didn't do
Did
bad.
Jedediah do? You know what?
Listen,
Look at this.
I had to represent.
Well
Look at
done.
this.
Look at that right there.
That's
This one right here, I would not.
I came to play.
I would not mess with.
Listen, girl power. You know, I can't let
feel
you
like
guys do this stuff without representing.
Probably makes your heart better too.
What happened?
The study was about men, but I'm guessing that
It's about
girl
men,
hearts.
but you know what? You got women running for president. You got women competing in push-ups. We could do it all.
Yeah, and you know,
I got to represent.
Griff,
How do you feel though?
I feel great. I feel great. I feel like Rick Rugmuth at Daytona 500. He's down there
Rick
in
was
Florida doing a bunch of
Rick,
push-ups too.
drop and give me a couple, Griff. Or Rick.
Guys,
oh, here he goes. He's going.
I did 40 this morning. Actually, it's exactly 40. So I didn't even. It's true.
live
It's
forever.
true. I will live forever. Just like these guys do. Griff and Mike Joy. By the way, I offered them $100 each if they would start this doing push-ups, and they said
I'd have to do the interview laying on the ground.
All right, guys. Today is the big day, Daytona 500. You guys are the announcers. You also have some experience in this. By the way, before we started talking, Daryl, you were going on about the 88 race, and you could have won that one. Like, you have this memory for every race you raced and how you could have won more.
Well, I came here in 1966, so my memory goes way back. And every driver, Mike knows this, he's interviewed all of us. Every driver remembers the one he almost won, the one he should have won, the one he could have won. Hardly ever do you think much about the one that you did win. So that's just a driver mentality. You got that endowed in your mind, and you never forget those that you got away.
Yeah, I'm going to let you think about it as endowed.
What is that word?
I'm not sure, but we'll let Mike
It's up here.
Something up here. All right, Mike, so Daytona 500, obviously it's the beginning of the season. It's where kind of the storylines get set. But there's kind of some storylines this year with a lot of people left last year and retired.
Well, we've kind of had that the last few years, but we got a great crop of new stars for people to follow and pick your favorite driver. So let me set this up for you, Rick. Okay. You, and now that our three friends in New York are now all in great shape this morning, you're all going to hop into cars with 36 of your friends, one in each car. You're going to drive to Boston at 200 miles an hour. You're going to pull off to Sunoco and get gas and 4 Goodyear tires in 12 seconds each stop. And when you get to Boston, you're going to do a lap around the State House. Julian Edelman's going to be up there with the flag. He's going to wave it. You're going to race back to New York. The whole thing's going to take just 3.5 hours. And when you get back to New York, the lead two cars are going to be that far apart.
No, they're not.
For over $1 million.
No, they're not. You're going to run out of gas.
Or a bunch of cars would have wrecked along the way.
Oh, yeah. And it's what's that thing? That's 200 laps, right?
200 laps.
200 laps around Daytona International Speedway.
We've got a great view of it right back here. You guys are going to be calling it on Fox today at 2:30?
With Jeff Gordon, yes.
All right, lots of experience, 70 years of experience either calling or driving.
Yeah, he's really old.
I'm going to start doing push-ups. I don't know. I think we better.
Get healthy. Guys, thanks so much for being up with us this morning.
Good to be here this morning.
Good luck today on the race. Guys, send it back to you inside.
Good stuff. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thanks. He's having way too much fun out there.
He is.
All right, we've got some headlines for you this morning. Bill Cosby compares himself to the likes of Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. In a letter released by his spokesman, the disgraced comedian writes, quote, "I now have a temporary residence that resembles the quarters of some of the greatest political prisoners, Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, and Nelson Mandela. Cosby is serving 3 to 10 years for sexual assault." 2020 presidential hopeful Elizabeth Warren is heckled at a Georgia rally over previous claims about her Native American heritage.
My story will make this.
That heckler escorted out carrying a parody Warren sign that read "Won 2020," poking fun at DNA test results Warren released last year. The Massachusetts Democrat has apologized.
A lot of room in that crowd, too.
Oh, yeah. A Florida man gets a $980,000 tax refund after a false filing. The man reported he had $1 million in taxes withheld, leading to the massive refund. The IRS caught the error and has since reclaimed the money along with a Lexus. The man has not been charged. Country star Miranda Lambert, who I love, by the way, says she's found true love by marrying an NYPD officer in a secret wedding this weekend.
Hope to every cop everywhere.
I'm going out and buying a Miranda Lambert album today. Like, she just went way up in my...
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
She's a great musician, too. I love her stuff. And Staten Island.
I bet he's a great police officer.
That's true. Staten Island, man. In the house all the time. Always got news from Staten Island.
That's true. All right. Well, we traded the traitor, Bo Bergdahl, for these 5 former Gitmo detainees. Now we're negotiating the future of Afghanistan with those...
Good morning. Some quick headlines for you, starting with this. A minor league baseball team is getting rid of peanuts and Cracker Jack. The Hartford Yard Goats announced they're banning the baseball staples from their ballpark because of allergies. This is the first team affiliated with a big league franchise to institute the ban. And remember this, famous jazz musician Kenny G talking about his private performance for Kim Kardashian West on Valentine's Day.